Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Gothic Heart. A few weeks ago, we did an episode on Do You Like Who You Are? And I wanted to bring this piece as a follow up. And I'm calling it Standing Alone and How to Find Peace. And that doesn't mean you're going to be alone in life. So let's go over that. This is about we all have a universal desire for acceptance, and it's uncomfortable to realize that not everyone is going to appreciate you and all that you have to offer. I have a perfect classic example of this, and it has to do in the work context. So, I used to be in operations and management, and all the time I would deal with training managers and promoting assistant managers to full managers, etc. And that comes with a level of status change with their now new employees and things. And it's very common to talk about in business you are their boss, you are not their friend, even though you were their friend necessarily at another level. So this is kind of an extension off that. You are their boss, not their friend. And I have always very clearly understood that. I'd been in management roles for 20 plus years and always teaching that to new people being promoted or new into the management roles was always surprising how their reactions would be. And for me, it was always it doesn't matter whether they like you. It matters whether they respect you and you are helping them become better and growing in their chosen career. That is your job, not to be their friend. It is your job to provide them a spot and a place for growth and feedback and how they can get to where you are and you get to the next level. And in that vein, I would always say to them, you guys are not all going to like me all of the time. That doesn't matter. What matters is if you're doing the work and I'm supporting you in the work, we're all going to be getting along. What happens is when someone stops doing the work, I am very big on accountability and checking in. And it'll start to get annoying when someone's not doing the work and there's constant accountability and checking in and you get annoyed. And that's when you don't like me. And that's when you don't like someone. So I had to come to terms with that. And I would have to, which I did, and I would teach others on how to come to terms with that in their new role. So that is sort of a broad context of how to talk about the inevitability of not being liked by everyone, especially for those of us, as we're talking in the alternative Gothic community or have different tastes and style than what's considered normal in this day and age. So it can come with, like we talked about, self-esteem and a harmful inner voice. And last time we talked about, or in that previous episode, if you like yourself and how to proceed. And so this time it's how to be comfortable with the fact that not everyone will like you or accept you for who you are. And a lot of times that will be heartbreaking, truly heartbreaking, especially if it's someone you love and you trust and is in your close circle of friends. There's absolutely, or family, there's absolutely ways to work through it with people. But there's also ways to consider if that person is meant to be in your life. So before, if you didn't listen, I will link the episode below. But if before we had talked about looking internally and deciding what you do and don't like about yourself. And if you don't like some things, then that's a really great opportunity for growth and change and improvement. And so you had to look objectively at what other people may have said about you or what you think about you and see if it was worth changing or if you loved who you were. So this time we're sort of talking about what are other people saying to you or talking about you or expressing they feel about you, and is it worth leaving them in your life? Is it worth listening to? Is it worth taking it to heart? Is it worth becoming stressed over? Got some weird hair thing going on. Okay. Is it worth becoming stressed over? So with that, on the one hand, we do need to, everybody, regardless of what they like and how they present themselves, we need to have some semblance of thick skin, which comes from us liking ourselves and enjoying ourselves from the last episode. Thick skin. No matter what in life, at all times, even growing up, there's always going to be people who aren't your friends and people who are. And having some thick skin and not caring about what other people think, which is extremely hard. I know my third grader is, going through a lot of that right now. It's very difficult. So while that's difficult to not care what other people think or to maybe feel super alone or to feel polarizing to other people, how do we decide who stays in our circle and who goes? If it's a passing person you don't know that says something like trolls on the internet or make comments or things, man, those can get to you. Those can get to you. I get it in your head and you're like, it doesn't even matter. But those are people we don't even know. They're not going to be in our circle. So I feel like those are the easiest ones to be like, doesn't matter. Cut them out. That's fine. Even though it's going to be stressful and we're going to think about it for sure. So those are easy because they're not in our circle. But what do we do when people are looking at us in a way that is not how we feel about ourselves now that we've determined we like ourselves? Well, I think it's worth a talk. I think it's worth an expression. Let them know how you're feeling, especially if it's a family member or your significant other. There, are ways to work through it if it's important. It's objectively look at who this person is to you, whether they're a lover, a friend, a family member, a colleague, passing acquaintance. How important is this person in your life? And obviously from acquaintance to colleague to, boss and family member, et cetera, there's the level of importance can go up. And the level of importance is something to take into consideration on how much time and energy you want to devote to keeping this person in your life versus, someone you barely know, maybe worth if you like them or want to hang out with them or you're learning something from them to give them a past couple times. But after that, if it's doing you more harm than good and hurting your self-esteem and your self-image and the things you've decided already you like about yourself, then it may be time to kick those people to the curb, those semi-adjacent people. So in relationships, I talked a lot about different relationships in the last ones, and it was a matter of determining which ones are the right ones to fight for. And like we had to objectively look at ourselves last time, let's objectively look at each person in our life. So let's say it's a family member. Well, we know the relationship is important. Generally your family members important, or might be really close to them. Well, in theory, they would be feeling a lot of love for you that you have for them, and it would be worth it for them to know, hey, I like who I am. If you don't like those parts of me, either figure out a way to like them, let's talk about it, or let's not bring it up. Let's just celebrate and enjoy the parts of each other that we do like, because I like this part about myself. And again, it's my non-negotiable. We talked about non-negotiables in that last episode as well. So it would be worth a talk. And for someone who loves you and cares, I'm a fingers crossed, because I'm going to say they would want to work that out and know how you're feeling, because they wouldn't want to feel that way either. I wouldn't want my kiddo to be feeling that way. If she felt that I was doing that to her, I would want to know. I would want to fix it. Right. So if it's not ending up that way, well, that's a whole nother story. And then same thing with friends and assessing, well, how long is this person going to be in your life? Is this a lifelong friend, someone you're going to know in 20 years? Or is this someone who's just living on the dorm on your floor and you're not even going to see them when you move out of the dorms next year or whatever? So, or a sorority sister. I definitely had issues in my sorority. I was in a sorority. Obviously, some of my things do not seem typical sorority girl nature, but then I was also a cheerleader as well. So there are parts of me that are, but as far as the stereotypical presenting ourselves doesn't necessarily fit me. So it was a matter of, well, a lot of times people are in sororities and they have those relationships for the rest of their lives. So it's a matter of, I ended up transferring to a different college anyway. So they didn't end up being super long lasting relationships. So how it's a matter of you looking objectively and deciding how important are these relationships, and then how can you fix anything that's bothering you with them. Would exactly be a matter of talking, expressing yourself, expressing feelings. Vulnerability can go a long way because maybe they're just clueless and they don't know. And so hopefully turning them around into ones that, I mean, they might be accepting you, but it's just not appreciative comments that they keep making, right? And so we'll keep them to yourself, or maybe we can change their mind, although that's really hard. It's easier to just celebrate and enjoy the parts of each other that you do like, right? So, and also with that, all right, so that way you can figure out how to keep your self care, your self love in your circle and determine who is worth spending that time on if they're not accepting you fully yet. Okay. So after that, let's talk about how we can find new people that already are that acceptance and how we can surround ourselves with supportive people who appreciate us, which in that episode, I had talked about that turning point where I realized I liked who I was. And so I went back to an old or a long time on again, off again, who is now my husband, boyfriend, friend, who accepted me for who I was always and loved the quirky things about me. The funny thing is, if I do something quirky or ridiculous, because I can be quite ridiculous, my husband laughs and thinks it's funny. Whereas other people I dated would be like, ugh, you're being ridiculous or whatever. Yeah, I know I'm being ridiculous, but the fact that my husband finds it hilarious is a lot easier for me to take than somebody getting annoyed. So finding those people who support you for you. And how do we find them? Well, a like-minded community can go a long way. I had so many good friends from my concerts, and not that they necessarily had the same like life visions or viewpoints on things in life as me, but by nature of liking the metal music that I like, they sort of just were automatically a more open individual back in those days, again, the 90s, where people were less open-minded than they are now, would be a more open-minded individual and be more supportive and open to all different things versus you have to be this way and this is the way everyone is. You can't do this in public. You have to show yourself as this. This is the only thing you can do, which is how a lot of people my age were brought up because we had boomer parents. So finding people that have even just one thing in common with you may mean you find people that are more open-minded and supportive. There are also um, like markets that you can go to and meet like-minded people, like if there's or stores, or nowadays with the advent of Meetup and Facebook groups, it's a lot easier to find people that express your same interests. And as an adult, as a mom, for sure, it's hard to find other mom friends. That's always just like a running sort of joke is how do you find mom friends? You just go up to other moms at the playground, right? So it does mean some vulnerability and some stepping out of your comfort zone, but nothing worth having comes from staying in your comfort zone. When you're stepping out of your comfort zone, you are growing. You're growing as a person, you are growing as an individual, and your mind is expanding and you're learning. So I feel like we've come a little bit full circle on this, where we had talked about how to make sure that you liked yourself for who you are. Now we decide the ones that don't like you for who you are. Well, is there enough there? Are they worth keeping in your circle? Because even if you've decided you like yourself, keeping people that may make offhand comments or things that are unsupportive will constantly wear at your newfound level of love for yourself. You can only rebuff it so many times. So determining the right circle of people, the right you to be, the right people to surround yourself with, and the journey you can set out on when those things are set is incredible. I figured it out later in life. I see my daughter at 9 struggling with it now. Of course, she doesn't listen to her mommy. Mom, I'm sorry, she's 9 now. I'm mom, not mommy. But hopefully to get people, or if I'm even helping one person or even my daughter get to that point earlier in their life, then that's incredible. Because even though I got to that point 13 years ago, about 13 years ago, it still took me all the way until now to feel comfortable expressing all of my styles and starting my own company that may even skew or have some designs that way. I mean, I spent so much time as an attorney in corporate management, things like that. It took me until after I was 40 to realize the importance of being yourself, because people can feel it, whether it's obvious or not, or something they can actually verbally express. You can feel when someone's not being truly authentic. And people love authenticity. They may not be your person. Again, we talked about not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to like you. Well, then they're not your person. But the people who do resonate with you and can feel everything that you have to offer or that I have to offer, I'm so excited to have them as a client or a friend or in my life. I don't need the other ones. When I really resonate with someone, when I feel a connection with someone, I am much more invested in what they say and what they do and what they show me. So being authentic to yourself, first discovering and accepting that, hey, I like myself and it's okay if others don't. And then being that person authentically, and just the doors and windows it can open in your life. I hope you find it sooner than I did, because I'm literally living my best life through it right now. And I want that for you as well. So I will link everything below in the description. I hope you enjoy this episode. I've got some amazing guests coming on too. I can't wait to dive into a lot more fun stuff. So subscribe, follow, share with anyone you think this might help, including my daughter, because I'm not going to listen if I send it to her. And I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.